Welcome to Healing Simplified, a shift in perspective. I'm Jeannie Rubin.
And I'm Josh Rubin, and we're the owners of East West Healing.
We are super excited to have you guys here to share this information with you. I think the shift that we're talking about is something that literally changed everything that we know about nutrition.
I think it was not only a professional shift, we'll talk about that, but I think it was also a personal shift for us with our own health and our own well-being. And that's really helped us evolve personally and professionally and continue to look at what doesn't work and grow and not just continually focus on the same thing and expect different results in a sense, right? So we welcome you. We're very excited to share this because we love to get this out to the world, right? And this is our way of doing it. Social media is great, but, hearing someone's voice, building that relationship with them, kind of hearing everything, the little nuances of their work and their approach, and also their personal life sometimes and experience, it can be really powerful and empowering, right?
I think as practitioners for so many years, we've been in this field for multiple decades now, and we've seen so many things come and go, but some things really have stayed the same. And one of those is this push to do labs and to treat with supplements. Again, as Josh often shares, it's no different than allopathic medicine, right? You're doing labs, you're being treated with medication. Same thing with labs, whether you're doing a naturopath or functional medicine, you're being treated with loads and loads of supplements that are costing you gazillion dollars a month. And that was something that, in our own practice became something that we were questioning. We started to receive, files and files and files of labs, but nobody was getting better with all of these labs. So we dug deeper. And this is where, again, this shift really took place for us is, wait a second, we don't have to go trying to quote unquote fix what's wrong with people. Let's look at where we come from. And that is we come into this world as a single cell, we multiply into these trillion cells, and it's how these cells are breathing that determine health or inflammation. So we kind of work from that level.
But it's also looking at how is that person living?
Right.
What is their story? What is their environment? What is creating their lab results, right? And this is what we're going to be talking about through this podcast. It's really about, our external world influences our internal world. Right. And we have to change to create the change we desire, right? But as Jeannie said, the other problem is with the, do a lab, take a supplement mentality is, you're spending tons and tons of money on labs and getting these protocols is not working, which makes you very, what's the word I'm looking for? Really hesitant to work with anyone else, really hesitant to learn anything else or do anything else because it's I've done it or I've spent the money and I put the energy into it and it hasn't worked. So our goal with all the different populations we're speaking to today is to say, take a step back with everything we're going to say and maybe unlearn a little bit to learn and hear what we're saying. Because really what we're saying is we want you to do less. We don't want you to do more. We want to simplify your process. We want to take you from that place of confusion and paralyze and overwhelm just a place of simplicity and a place of freedom.
I think we all understand that stress is what breaks the body down, right? And stress is when the demands exceed your ability to meet those demands. So a lot of the times, as Josh was saying, people are stepping into this healing process and they're being asked to do more, spend more, right? There's just more. And very much so, we want to kind of guide you through a process of taking away. Let's do less. Let's reduce the demand on your system so that we create an environment for healing to take place.
And that's what we hope this podcast does for you, right? Is number one, we want to really simplify this for you. So you're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense to me. And it really feels good. We want to save you time and money. Like Jeannie said, it's when you're living in chaos and you don't have a lot of time, and you have kids and you don't have a lot of resiliency, and someone says, well, you got to do this protocol. You got to do all these things every day. It's health is a hobby now. We want to look at your plate and say, how can we create space for healing, right? Which, of course, that's going to feel good and have a crazy physiological effect, right? So we want to save you not only time, but money, and move you away from all the supplements, right? And towards food, and make food fun again, and away from the labs, and save that money for your family and vacations and doing things that really soothe your soul.
Right. And I think that that's really important to understand, is that your body, in its wisdom, and with all of the internal processes that are there to protect us, is doing nothing more than trying to bring balance to your system. We just have to help you, or you have to help you. You have to begin building some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, and providing those resources to your body so that it can do that work that it knows exactly how to do.
I think that's a really important point, because that's what your body's designed to do. It's designed to create health, right? We just have to learn to listen to it so we can live and eat and breathe and move, etc., in a way to support it, to adapt to the world around you. That's really what it wants to do. And we don't do that. That's when we start to see the histamine, the SIBO, the candida, the PCOS, the diabetes, all the autoimmune, all these things that are popping up. It's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's just your physiology is being mismanaged, because the world around you, you're mismanaging it. And this is something we'll get into more, especially in the next podcast.
Right. So if you know anybody who you feel could benefit from this information, please share it with them. Share this with anybody that you know. It means the world to us. And I think, what we've learned over many years is, as we begin to build our own awareness around what it is we need, and as we begin to quiet our own internal systems, there's this whole new level of compassion that we can have for the people around us who are still suffering, who don't know, who aren't ready to listen, whatever it might be. So share it. It's going to make a difference. It's going to be a little bit of a domino effect in what we've observed over the years.
Right. We appreciate it. So before we jump in, we just want to mention how you can get some additional support. Well, first of all, at our base level, you can join the Healing Hub for free. You can join our group coaching, our one-on-one coaching, or you can just support us on social media. We're East West Healing on Facebook and at Real Food Gangsters on Instagram. And all of that can be found in the show notes.
Yes.
So let's kind of jump into this first episode. Jeannie kind of touched upon it. And we do repeat ourselves a lot, but I think it's important, because sometimes you don't hear it until sometimes you don't listen. How do you say it? Like, you don't hear it, or you listen to it, but you don't really hear it until it's like the third or fourth or fifth time,
Until you're ready.
Or until you're ready. Right. And that's why we repeat it, because, and I heard this amazing quote today. I don't know if I can remember it. It's like, you can only meet people to the depth that you've met yourself. That's that kind of thing. But what we teach, we're kind of up against the entire industry. Look online, look in any arena online, whether it's fat loss, get abs, a bigger booty, or any type of, illness healing. It's literally, you need to find someone to tell you what's wrong with you, do a lab to prove what's wrong with you, and take a supplement protocol to fix what's wrong with you, right? The problem is, this takes your power away. And this is important. Right? It not only takes your power away, but it takes you away from reconnecting with your body. I remember Gabor Mate saying, like, every time there's a micro stress or a micro trauma or a trauma or a stress, there's a disconnection from self. Is that what he says? Something like that. Mm-hmm. So to us, healing is really learning how to reconnect with who you are and what resources you, what makes you happy. It makes you live every single day to thrive, which, if we ask all of you, that doesn't include supplements and labs and doing all the crazy things that everyone's asking you to do. In a sense, and I know Jeannie wants to say something in a letter, but in a sense, what's happening is your journey to become healthy is now becoming unhealthy, and it's almost like you need to heal from healing.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think that, any level of trauma is a disconnection from self. But I think that we live in a world where, again, everything is going so fast. So even though some of us have these macro traumas that have taken place earlier on in our lives or in childhood, I think each and every one of us are exposed daily to just the grind. The grind, it's kind of like you get a gold star the busier you are and the more intense your life is. When in all reality, it's the exact opposite. But my point is that our entire culture is geared toward disconnecting ourselves from ourselves. And that is where we have to very intentionally and consciously and mindfully say no. No, I'm not going to disconnect from myself. And I can see that happening. And here's all the reasons why. And I'm going to shut those things down so that I can get quiet enough to begin to speak about or started doing some of the things that we're going to talk about right now. And I'm just going to jump right into it. Before anything, first and foremost, there's 5 tenets of healing that we talk about, because if we don't have these things in place, then it's going to be very hard for us to move forward and progress in our healing process. And the first and foremost is that awareness. If we can't quiet down enough to observe ourselves. And I once heard it spoken of getting up on the balcony and looking down and kind of observing yourself in your life and saying, okay, what's working and what isn't working? Giving ourselves enough permission to take that pause and observe, so that we can take one little thing and shift that one little thing that is really making that's going to make a huge difference. And that's going to allow us to begin to take one step at a time, that manageable steps, right? It's not huge. This is something that's going to take time, and again, the time of awareness to observe yourself. But when you begin to do that, you really begin to see how simple healing can become and how much you can get out of making one little shift.
Right. I mean, something we always say is healing doesn't have to be so complicated.
Right.
And it really doesn't be. We're just making it so complicated. This not on purpose. Not on purpose. A lot of us do what we need to do to survive.
Yes.
We do it because it allows us to survive. And sometimes we don't even know we're doing it to survive. But our goal is to help you become aware of that, so you can make the changes, so you're not just surviving, you're actually thriving.
But I also want to say that this isn't something easy
that
we're asking you to do or to consider, because for most of us, and I can speak to this very personally, when your internal system feels like it is in survival all the time, and for me, that's my default mode. That's where I was brought up, right? It is very hard to stop, because if you stop, everything could go down, right? So we have to really give ourselves grace and be patient with ourselves, but just take these little moments to just kind of catch your breath and pause and see what you observe for yourself.
But also within this, I just want to touch upon what Jeannie said. It's a little bit of a tangent. It reminds me of this. I love tangents.
You're going to find many of those in this program.
It reminds me of this client, because what's all the rage right now? Nervous system healing. And when people hear nervous system, they think breath work, tapping, all these different therapies and somatics and everything in between. Yes, those are tools. But to us, that's not nervous system healing. And she was like, I'm doing all the things. I'm going to therapy, and I'm doing, the tapping, and I'm doing breath work, and I'm, dancing to music, and it's just not working. And I'm actually feeling really wound up. I'm not sleeping, and I don't know what to do, because I thought it was truly going to help me. Mm-hmm. When we build awareness and we're like, I have these traumas or these micro stressors, you are connecting with that, like you're honoring that. But the problem is, what our culture does is more is better. We say to do more, you need to do less, right? So what was happening is, whether she was in dorsal vagal or whether she was in sympathetic, it doesn't matter. She was stuck in one of those. These things were actually overstimulating this already overstimulated or frozen system. It's almost like bringing things to the surface that she wasn't ready to handle. Mm-hmm. She didn't have the resiliency to handle, right? So we just want to say, when you build awareness, it doesn't mean you have to attack it. Mm-mm. Doesn't mean you have to fix it, right? Really what it comes down to is awareness allows us to begin to create a healing environment, right? Which we'll talk about more in the next podcast. But allows us to say, this is my anchor point. Because too many of us are going left and right. We're trying all these different things. It's not working. And that anchor point for everyone should be, how do I begin to create cues of safety? Sounds crazy. Well, what does that mean? But what it really means is, think about the things that make you smile, make you just feel in your body and just inside your body and just feel good, right? And I always tell clients there's like 3 levels. First is you could do it anytime, anywhere. Like for me, it's laying on the ground in my office. That resources me. That's a cue of safety, right? For you, it could be totally different. You could have a list of 10 things, right?
It could be something as simple as a bouquet of flowers on your table, though, as well.
It can be something visual. It could be a sound.
Yes.
It's anything, right? Level 2 is you need a little more time. Like I like to go take a walk outside with the dog or even just step outside. And sometimes I do that when I'm on the phone with clients. But you have a million different, cues of safety that work for you, and that's important to understand, right? It could be a smell even. The third is you need to plan it. Like for me, mountain biking, I always use that example. Like it's I love it. I don't have to talk. I don't listen to music. I'm in nature. I'm by myself. Jeannie's like, you should go with people. I'm like, but I love going by myself. So I think this is the starting point when you begin to create awareness, is figuring out your cues of safety, because we don't want you all to go, oh my God, this is me. I need to do breathwork. I need to do tapping. I need to do therapy. And the problem is what we're doing, like Jeannie or I touched on, is like, in a sense, we're using these things as survival tools to continue to drown out the safety, and that's really what your body needs. So we want to make sure that we just don't attack it head on, and we really move slow, and essentially let's do it differently than we've done it in the past.
And I think that that's huge, because I will say everything we're going to talk to you about in this podcast is designed to create that safety in your body so that you don't have to go chase your traumas to get rid of them, to get closer to your healing. You create the space, and as you're ready, they will emerge when you are ready.
So the first piece of the 5 tenets of healing is awareness. And like Jeannie said, these 5 tenets precede your foundation, which is really what we're going to talk to you about in this podcast. The second one is consistency, right? Think about this. Like, we're all living in chaos. We're living off our tracks, out of sync with our body rhythms, right? And, as Jeannie mentioned, your physiology and your body is in your nervous system, in your cells, are always reacting to the environment around you, right? That rhythm and that structure. So if we're living in chaos, think about what's going to be happening internally, right? So there's something I always tell clients, because as a culture, again, we're always so like, oh, you want me to do that? And we go full on. You want me to go to the gym? I'm going to go 7 days a week. You want me to take 1 desiccated thymus? And next thing I know, they're taking 6 on our next consult. But I didn't tell you to take 6. So it's like the more is better. But it's not about perfection. Perfection leads to failure. This is the instant gratification model in our society, and it cannot be put into the health model, right? So when you move through these podcasts, and you move through making changes in your life, think about creating consistency. Think about creating one small shift. Something that you go, what's the easiest thing I feel I can do right now? Well, the easiest thing I can do is taking a break at lunch when everyone's eating in the break room. I'm going to go outside after lunch and just sit outside on a bench and feel the fresh air. Great. Do that consistently. Make that small shift, because now what you're doing is every single day you're beginning to shift your external environment to rewire your internal environment.
A lot of you in this space, because you're here, are seeking health, because again, there is that internal chaos. And so often we relate this to how we care for our children, right? And I think that is a really huge part of the healing process, is self-parenting, right? We have to begin to see, hear, acknowledge, respond appropriately to our own needs. So we want you, in a sense, to begin nurturing yourself in the same way you would your child, because we're trying to bring that nervous system back into balance. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is through building that awareness, so that we can discover our keys of safety and bring consistency to how we apply those in our own life.
Right. The third is patience. And this is a big one, right? Because, I'm actually was talking to a friend recently. He's got really bad eczema and he wants help because the doctors are just recommending, steroid creams and injections, and he's really struggling. And, I gave him some things to work on, and a week later, he's like, I'm not seeing any change. If I don't begin to see change, I get impatient, and then I don't really follow the process. This is the model, again, of our culture. It's that instant gratification, and unfortunately, healing is a journey. It's not a destination. And it's like, think about this. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old listening to this, it's taken you 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years to get here. We'll be talking much more about this in the next podcast based on the biopsychosocial theory. But you're everything from conception till now, right? So you have to think about it in the sense of money. Like, I have created $1 million in debt, but now I'm aware of it. So I'm going to stop the outflow and learn how to manage that better. So I can start saving money and spending money and having fun, but also pay my debt off at the same time. And if it's taken you that long to create $1 million of debt, how long is it going to take you? It's not going to take you 70 years, but my point is embrace the journey and give your body a little space and grace.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Next is trust in self. I think this is huge because I can't tell you how many people we speak to that are just like, I don't think I can heal. And I can't, and I want to say this straight up, you can heal.
Yeah.
That is exactly what your body is working so hard to do every single day. And and I don't think we give our bodies enough thanks for all the systems in place to protect us. I think we look down on them. It's like this darn stress system, these cortisol, this adrenaline, I want to get rid of it. Where we should be thanking it because it's what's keeping us alive. And I think there's a lot of things that we do in our world, our habits, our behaviors, have protected us for so many years. And as we're on this healing journey, what we're learning is that we need to do it differently now. We don't have to do that the same way. But at the same time, we are looking outside of ourselves to find health versus really tapping into that innate wisdom that we have. We're relying on supplements and trusting other people with our own health versus trusting our own physiology, right?
And that goes back to, I said, they take your power away and you truly believe you can't heal because there is something wrong with you when there isn't.
Right. You need to, you need a device to tell you if you're sleeping or how much you're moving and whatnot. It's like a little out of control. And I'm not to say that those things don't have play a role for some people, right? Just getting into the mode of taking better care of ourselves, those can be useful. But at the same time, I think you're catching where we're going with this. Bottom line is tuning in is scary. It can feel really scary. It can feel really uncomfortable. But when it comes to healing, there is no going around it. You've got to go through the hard pieces. It's not a linear process. You're going to have ups. You're going to have ups. You're going to have downs. But the bottom line is your body can heal. We just have to help you discover what those pieces are. And
you do. And if you're finding it's overwhelming, then you're doing too much too fast. Exactly. It's that simple. I always say this,
That's such a huge thing.
The equation for health and healing is consistency plus compliance plus time. You have to do things that you can be compliant with that make it fun. If it's overwhelming, you're doing too much too fast.
And if you're not having fun, it's not worth it.
Right.
You got to change it.
The last one is courage. This is big. You can call it vulnerability. It's really understanding that we have built this world where we live in controlled environments. It's like sitting in this controlled environment house. We're super comfortable and we don't really have to feel stress. You know what I mean? We can just order food and everything's going to come to us. But if we want change, then we have to change, right? For us, healing, the definition of healing is creating new, healthy habits and behaviors, right? When you look at the supplement protocols, when you look at most of the programs that are loaded with information, they're not allowing you to do this. They're not allowing you to say, you know what? These are my habits and behaviors and they're not serving me. But I'm just going to take this protocol or do red light therapy and never go outside. But I'm really expecting change. But if I don't change the cause, which is everything we're going to talk to you about in this podcast, your environment, etc., then how can we really create change? So we have to like really have this courage to say, you know what, I'm going to open the door. Might be a little cold out there, might be a little light, dark, scary, but I have the courage to create this change slowly over time. And if I do it, and I make it fun, and I do things that I can be compliant with, then I will heal over time. Right? So there's a lot to take in here, right? So just to reiterate, the 5 tenets of healing are awareness through observation, consistency, patience, trust in self, and courage. So we really appreciate you all being here. Like, this is just a passion of ours, just to talk to you. If we could talk to you every day, we would, to share our information. So please share this with anyone and everyone you can. Stay tuned for the next podcast, and we'll see you soon.